I'm Randy Wayne White, a semi-famous author and restaurateur, and I urge you to listen to the Zest podcast because it's about food, and food is fun. It's about St. Pete and Florida, which are as fun or funner.
I'm Delia Colon, and this is The Zest. Citrus, seafood, Spanish flavor, and Southern charm. The Zest celebrates cuisine and community in the Sunshine State. Today, we're kicking off Season 10 with a literary legend and restaurateur, Randy Wayne White. Say that 10 times fast. We hope you had a fantastic summer. I can't believe we're in Season 10 of The Zest, and you make it possible. The Zest is a public media podcast, which means everyone chips in what they can in order to keep it free for listeners. Even $5 or $10 really helps us out. To support this podcast, please go to thezestpodcast.com or click in the link in the show notes to donate. We'll even mail you a cool Zest sticker to put on your water bottle or laptop. Now, on to today's episode. Randy Wayne White is the author of dozens of novels set in Florida, including the fan-favorite series about fictional marine biologist Marion Doc Ford. White's latest Doc Ford novel is One Deadly Eye, as in Eye of the Storm, just in time for peak hurricane season. The novel took him on a book tour that included stops at, where else? Doc Ford's Rum Bar and Grill. White owns the restaurant with 2 business partners, and there are locations all along Florida's Gulf Coast. Back in June, he stopped at the St. Pete Pier location to do a book signing and reading. But first, around lunchtime, he settled into a booth with moi for a chat.
For many years, I traveled all over the world to almost every bad place you can imagine, and that is absolutely true. And I became infatuated with the history of rum, because every small country, every small community in some countries have their own distillery. And places such as Nicaragua, Panama, Guatemala, Colombia, all over Central South America, Mexico, Cuba, Africa. Particularly in the rural places, I would see out in the field an oxen pulling a wheel around and around and around. There would be smoke coming up out of a hole in the ground, and they would be processing cane sugar, molasses, making molasses to send to the distillery. And some of the distilleries I've been to, for instance, in Nicaragua, I was there during the war, and the one safe place you could go was the distillery, Flor de Caña Rum. And the family has owned that distillery for well over 200 years. It was a safe place because neither side was going to blow it up.
Yeah, we're not going to get rid of the rum. So what were you doing traveling around to all these places in the first place?
Well, like you, I'm a writer. So we're allowed to go anywhere and do any stupid thing we want. And if people ask questions, we have a ready-made excuse. I'm a journalist and I'm an idiot. I would also carry a fishing rod. And everywhere I went, I would carry a fishing rod and a photograph of a tarpon. And if I was stopped at border crossings, if I was stopped by the Guardia, the revolutionaries, I get stopped by a lot of people. And I would show them my fishing rod, and they would drop everything to tell me how great the fishing is.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Completely disarming, because they figured quite correctly that I'm just a fool. So a lovely way to introduce yourself to people who otherwise might put you in jail and shoot you.
Good tip, pro tip. Okay, when we first sat down, you said it all started with this, and you picked up this bottle of Doc Ford's Green Flash pepper sauce. It's got a picture of a parrot on it.
I designed the label.
Oh, you designed the label. What don't you do?
I don't do anything very well.
I think everyone in here would disagree. So when you say it all started with this, what do you mean?
It did. I'd spent a lot of time in Colombia during the Pablo Escobar years, and was always looking for the ideal pepper sauce. Did that in Vietnam, did it in South Africa, because I love chili peppers, and I love the history of chili peppers. Before Columbus came to what is now called the New World, there was no hot sauce worldwide. There were no chili peppers. They all originated in the Amazon Valley, with rare exception. Now, the archaeologists have found a few chili pepper seeds in the Tocobago mounds here, the Calusa mounds, that date back thousands of years. A few places in the Bahamas, but all chili peppers originated in the Amazon Valley. And I met some guys in Colombia who are still great friends. And they were very distraught because they had been growing many hectares of chili peppers for the McElhaney people, the Tabasco sauce people. And they would grow the chilies, make mash, send it to McElhaney. And one year I went down there and they were very distraught because hundreds, maybe thousands of hectares of their chili peppers had accidentally crossbred with a wild chili. And Tabasco wouldn't buy their mash. And I said, why don't you make your own hot sauce? My friends took 2 years to develop a habanero hybrid that has that wonderful peachy flavor, but not the crazy heat. I'm not big on crazy heat. And I think I had $7,000 in the bank at the time. I invested $5,000. Stayed down an extra couple of weeks and I designed the label. And this is, without a doubt, the best hot sauce I've ever had.
Okay, first of all, what year was that? And then how did you even come to be so interested in hot sauce? Because from what I understand, you're originally from Ohio. I am too, just got back last night at midnight. And Ohio is not exactly known for its spicy food.
Magnificent state, Ohio. I was born there, lived in a tiny little farm town called Pioneer, Ohio. But my family's from North Carolina, and we tend to like spicy food in North Carolina. I'm an amateur historian. And you can trace the history of commerce through the progressive spread of chili peppers. And Columbus took back 3 varietals to Portugal, and they quickly spread throughout Europe into Asia. There was no hot food in the world. There was horseradish and black pepper, but there were no chili peppers. And it spread so quickly and became so intimate with the various cultures and how they use chili peppers. I found that very charming, and also the excuse to go looking for the world's best pepper sauce was like fishing, just an excuse to go places I shouldn't have been. But in Colombia, it's the best I've ever had. It's all natural. We use turmeric root, we use cane vinegar, not apple vinegar, and these hybrid feral chili peppers. And this was the first one, designed the label, named them. They all have my signature on them. So, invested $5,000 when I had maybe $7,000. And then probably 2 months later, a big semi-truck pulls up in front of my little house on Pine Island, a semi-truck on a very narrow one-way lane road. I thought, what in the heck? It was the hot sauce. Boxes and boxes, crates and crates of this hot sauce. I had to enlist 2 or 3 friends to help me get it into the house. The house was packed with the stuff. And that lovely floral aroma, you'll smell this, it's incredible. And I realized I had nowhere to sell it. I said, I'm a business whiz.
And then how did that bottle of hot sauce turn into this restaurant empire?
Through one screw up after another, I had nowhere to sell it. So another buddy of mine, a thoracic surgeon, great friend, said, well, you should start a restaurant. And so I started talking to restaurateurs. So we decided to do a restaurant. Doc Ford's, I mentioned rum bar and grill. They were not for that because there were no rum bars in the country. But I think vodka had come into vogue, or maybe bourbon, I don't know, but it just seemed, it's tropical, it just seemed a natural fit. So started the first restaurant on Sanibel. It was an instant hit. Not gigantic, but it was instant because the food was remarkable. Unusual recipes, much based on these sauces, and rum.
that first restaurant open?
2003.
Okay, so for people who are unfamiliar, who is Doc Ford? What is the Doc Ford brand?
Doc Ford is the protagonist in a series of novels I've written.
I'm surprised because when I was researching you, I understand that you were a fishing guide for many years. So I thought that would have been the impetus for the restaurant. How does all of your fishing experience come into play?
Plays almost no role whatsoever. I did more than 3,000 charters. I was a full-time fishing guide for more than 13 years. And I adored those days, that little marina we had on Sanibel, Tarpon Bay Marina. In 1989, the federal government closed it to powerboat traffic. They gave us 2 months' notice. I was out of a job, and I'm not qualified to do anything except drive boats. And I had 2 young sons and very little savings. And I thought, I'm going to write a book. And I've been working very hard learning the craft of writing. It's not an easy craft to learn, as you know. I'd published with some major magazines. So I thought, I can do this. But when the marina closed, I had to make money, so I wrote a book. Protagonist was Doc Ford, Marion Doc Ford, a marine biologist. I didn't go to college. I'm no biologist. But I did know a lot about fish. A great deal about fish. And his sidekick, Tomlinson, who's an unrepentant hipster, smokes illegal things, a Zen Buddhist priest in the books. And that first book, Sanibel Flats, it's one of my best books. It sold maybe 800 copies. That's not good. But the reviews were incredible. In the year 2000, the International Independent Mystery Booksellers Association chose it as one of the 100 best mysteries of the 20th century. That's big.
That's huge. I'm just astounded because if I lost my job and needed to earn money, my first thought would not be, I'm going to write a book, because that's like the long game. So you must have had some confidence in your abilities. You mentioned reviews, so I want to read this short review from Fort Worth Star-Telegram. They said, White is willing to take risks, which is why he is one of the few best-selling authors today worthy of the title writer. So you've taken huge risks in terms of your career, and then how does that translate into the restaurant business, which I presume is also a big risk?
It was a big risk for me because it was my name. And that I take great pride in trying to be a decent, trustworthy, solid person. And I knew that could have gone south with the wrong restaurant. But the guys I licensed the name to were just superb. They completely renovated their failed restaurant and just took it to their heart, used decorations from my home, authentic decorations. And the first book signing I did at the restaurant, I signed nonstop for 6 hours. So the combination really worked.
Do you cook at home? And if so, what's your specialty?
I used to cook a lot. In fact, I've got a cookbook.
What's it called?
Randy Wainwright's The Fishing Guide's Guide to Cooking, I think. But when I traveled around the world, I would collect recipes. My North Carolina mother, aunts, uncles too, were all superb cooks. So as I traveled through Vietnam, Cambodia, Borneo, Sumatra, South Africa, all over Cuba, I would collect recipes. And I would cook, I think, the best pinto beans ever made. You have to start by smoking your own ham, by the way. Chipped beef on toast sounds simple, but it's great if you do it correctly. Barbecue, chili. I made incredible chili.
That's your Ohio roots coming out.
Well, they make pretty mean chili in North Carolina. It's delicious. And the barbecue, and then they would use the mustard, the southern mustard sauce. And the best sweet iced tea. You can't get good sweet iced tea anywhere, even here. Collards, oh my God, grew their own collards. And once again, you got to start by growing your own collards for it to be right. Make your own pepper sauce with vinegar.
Or maybe we can just buy yours.
It is the best. To the best of my knowledge, I've never made a cent off this hot sauce till this day. and it's now going international. My partners in Colombia but whatever percentage I get goes to fund taking care of sewage and garbage in mountain villages. I don't need the money, and so try and do good work there.
That's amazing. That's full circle. So you were traveling, and then you had the hot sauce. You wrote these books that enabled you to have this great life, and you've got these restaurants, and then now you're able to give back to some of the places that you started out.
Very important.
That's so cool. Okay, you briefly mentioned your baseball friends, and you're wearing a baseball jersey. So what does it say on the back? Spaceman 37.
Bill Lee. Bill Spaceman Lee, pitched for the Red Sox, one of my best friends. He's in the Hall of Fame. We started taking baseball teams to Cuba to give away baseball gear to kids. And we would take thousands of pounds of gear illegally. The federales were always after us, always stopping us. On YouTube, there's a documentary, quite a good one, about us doing this called Gift of the Game. And we would just charter a bus, drive around Cuba. If we saw kids playing baseball or adults, we'd get out and play a game, give away gear, catcher's gear, bats, helmets, uniforms, spikes, cups.
What do you eat when you go to a baseball game?
Hot dog, baby. I love hot dogs. In Cuba, not so much. They don't have great hot dogs there. But yeah, it's been an incredible life. And this book, One Deadly Eye, I wanted to get this one right. I've written so many books, always on deadline. Deadlines are a great thing. But there was never a book I sent off without thinking it could have been better. This book, I took my time, and I got it right, I think.
I know you did. Well, congratulations on the book, the restaurants, an amazing career, Randy Wayne White. What an honor to sit here at a booth in Doc Ford's with you. I mean, this is such a treat for me. Thank you so much for your time.
If you knew me, you would run like the wind, the very wind.
Well, first I'll have a mojito. The one and only Randy Wayne White. His latest novel is One Deadly Eye. Find it wherever you get your books. And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Zest Podcast. Now, this season, we're debuting a social media series called Zest Snacks, sponsored by Adelaide Interiors. Now, these are short, shareable tips that you can use in the kitchen. And speaking of tips, next week, the Zest team will be sharing some of our favorite cooking hacks to save you time and money in the kitchen. You won't want to miss that. I'm Dalia Colon. I produce The Zest with Andrew Lucas and Alexandria Ebron. The Zest is a production of WUSF, copyright 2024, part of the NPR network.